Why did Peter Barlow leave the Rovers Return, and who else has been a Coronation Street pub landlord? Ownership of the infamous boozer is very up in the air at the moment. Peter Barlow is no longer the landlord of the Rovers Return, and after a failed attempt by Gemma and Henry to take over, it's now up for grabs again. So who's going to become the new owner, and who else has been a Corrie pub landlord? Here's what we know. Why did Peter Barlow leave the Rovers Return? Peter Barlow quit his job as pub landlord of the Rovers Return when he found out the truth about baby Susie. He offered to sell his half to Toyah when he split up with her, but she is struggling to raise the cash to buy him out. A TV source said, "It's always a huge moment for Corrie fans when the landlord of the Rovers changes. Their decision is a very reluctant one, and the scenes are highly charged. Peter is so angry with Toyah, and she's very sorry and very teary." In an episode aired on 23rd of July, 2018, Peter Barlow announces that he has sold the pub. Who else has been a Coronation Street pub landlord? The Rovers Return has changed hands many times over the years since it first opened in 1902. Here's a look back at just a few of the previous owners. Gemma Winter and Henry Newton. They didn't technically own it, but for an incredibly brief period Henry Newton and Gemma Winter were running the Rovers. After splitting up with his fiancée, Henry was cut off from his family's trust fund but told Gemma he had bought the Rovers for her. His family, Newton and Ridley, actually owned the brewery, but they cut him off from his trust fund when he got back together with Gemma. When Gemma found out that Henry was just a povo like her, she threw a pint over him. Steve and Liz MacDonald. Steve MacDonald and his mum Liz were the previous landlords of the Rovers. They ran the pub from 2013 to 2017 with Liz's boyfriend Tony Stewart briefly replacing Steve in 2015. In 2017 they were forced to sell up in order for Steve to pay for his divorce from Michelle Connor. They sold to Toyah and Peter, despite criticism from Leanne Battersby due to Peter being a recovering alcoholic. Stella Price. Stella Price was the Rovers landlady from 2011 to 2013. At first she ran the pub with the help of her partner Carl Monroe. In 2012 she took full ownership and kicked him out when she realized he'd been having an affair with Sunita. Carl then became jealous of her new relationship with Jason Grimshaw and set fire to the Rovers, murdering Sunita in the process. Fred Elliott. Fred Elliott the Butcher was in charge of the Rovers from 2001 to 2006. At first he ran the pub with his supposed wife Eve, but she was a bigamist who was already married to Ray Skies. Fred was set to marry Bev Unwin, but on his wedding day he collapsed and died of a stroke. He had agreed to sell the pub to Steve MacDonald, but since nothing was finalized on paper it was passed on to his son Ashley Peacock.